Back again here at the Johnny Brento Brain Center, if you can call it that, the command center here where I do my editing, music writing, script writing, and also work here for my day job. Actually, it has been quite a while since I've made a video, but you know, I've been busy with a couple of things, and today we're going to be reviewing what might be the best premiere of an independent film that I personally have been to, HoneySpider, Kenny Caperton and John Hasty's HoneySpider, which I visited last night at the Classic Gym Theater. Got one of these amazing one-sheets, which Kenny really knows how to throw an event, and typically if you're there early, you can get your hands on a sweet one-sheet. So, lots to talk about with this movie. It's one of two really cool premieres I've seen this month, and the other was Robert W. Fillion's Athena, and have a lot to say about that film too, because I was fortunate enough to get to work on that one, but I'm going to save that for another video. This one I didn't get to work on, but I have worked with Kenny on a number of occasions, and just an awesome guy, and I think as a result of him being such a nice guy and his notoriety over the Myers House NC, he got a really great turnout, and I was so happy to see that. Anytime anybody, you know, just takes something out of their brain and puts it on the screen in the horror genre without, you know, big time funding, and it can be a grassroots thing, you know, them and their friends, just blood, sweat, and tears, and making something as cool as this guy's always down with it. So just a quick recap of the event. Showed up about an hour and a half early to say hi to Kenny and his buddy Gabriel, and make sure that I had one of these one-sheets, which I knew they'd have. You know, I'm sure there were plenty of people that did not get one of these, so I was glad to get one. So we walked around downtown Kannapolis for about an hour and a half and hung out, and just looked at how much the place has changed. I actually used to live about a mile from there on 1212 Center Grove Road when I was doing my apprenticeship as a mortician at Woodley's Funeral Home, as a matter of fact, in Kannapolis. Kannapolis has changed a lot in the decades since I've been back. Cannon Village is still there, most of the shops are empty, but where Cannon Mills actually sat has been completely just razzed, and these ginormous research buildings have been raised down there. They look like they come out of Gotham City. I mean, each floor, and it's like 5 floors, each floor looks kind of like there's a 150-foot ballroom in it, and giant windows, huge columns. It's really very Gotham City. That's just the best neo-Roman classical architecture. But anyway, back to HoneySpider. So finally, once they opened up, which was about 8:30. I should mention, by the way, the gym is just amazing. Kind of like 1930s style Art Deco, classic cinema. Doesn't look all that imposing on the front, although they got a great marquee. Once you get inside and go into the cinema, it's literally cavernous. It looks like it takes up half a block at least. But got in about 8:30. Film's going to start at 9. They actually showed like a regular, you know, Hollywood film prior to HoneySpider, and it was even a double header. But of course, you know, starting that late, you get to be an old guy like me, and you don't want to stay out too late when you're like half an hour away from home, whatever. Although I know Kenny was like 2 hours plus probably away from home. They showed Night of the Living Dead after. I really realize I'm just hopping all over because I'm actually really excited about this movie, and I want to get my thoughts out on it after I've seen it so recently, because it's not one that I've had a chance to go over a couple of times. And unfortunately, I actually really think to get to everything in HoneySpider, you kind of do need to watch it a couple of times. It's I went into it with a preconception that it was a slasher film that had a slasher film within it, and it was set in, you know, an old-timey type theater. That was really all I had. I had no idea that it was going to be such an art type movie, where it was left somewhat nebulous for you to kind of decide what it meant, which is really cool. Now, I could see people criticizing it for this. Me personally, I like that kind of thing. It really harkens back to me, for me, it harkens back to a couple of other films. House of the Devil from 2009, awesome movie. It's one of those movies you can't really go in with the expectation that everything's going to turn out and be okay. It's kind of intended to disturb you and leave you in like a really insecure place. So there were definitely things in this early on that that started setting the mood that it wasn't going to work out great for the heroine. Although, you know, whether it did or didn't, I can't really say. I'm not gonna like. It's not because I'm trying not to spoil this. And spoiler alert, I'm gonna give my interpretation of things. So, you know, I'm not gonna come out and tell you exactly what happens. But if me giving you my interpretation could potentially spoil it, maybe you should stop here until you've seen it, because I really hope you do go see it. There's gonna be another screening at Myers House NC. I think on Halloween, so I'll put the details in the video below, so you can, you know, get yourself to that. It is quite a ways away from our area, but worth the trip, definitely. So it's about an hour and 15 minutes. Anyway, it centers around college student Jackie Blue. I love these names because they sound like they're from an era film, and just has a lot of charm and ambience to just about really everything, all the characters' names, the locations. So basically starts out and sort of sets up that she's a college student who's kind of struggling to stay in school, financially speaking, and her parents have just split up. I don't know, I felt like maybe there could be something more, like the mother, there was something with the mother, I don't know exactly what. But very early on, it starts establishing her support system of friends in the college, and, you know, folks that were typical, kind of trying to be typical college students. And I actually think they did a really good job of pulling that off. Although my college was a mortuary college, ironically enough, not a morbid place, not a place with a ton of partying, which I think is kind of the typical 80s style college experience. Is just people looking to get stoned and drunk out of their mind the whole time. So that's never been like my particular, you know, take on college, because that's not what my college was like at all. My college, everybody wore suits. So there you go. Although there was a little bit of cutting up, it was never anything major. Anyway, one of the very first scenes early on in the film, it's the main character Jackie is walking outside, and it was really beautiful. I don't know, I think that part may have been shot in Ohio, obviously shot in the fall, potentially around Halloween time. Really beautiful fall foliage, and it just, you know, it was kind of like a slow start to the film, or a slow burn, I think is maybe Kenny would have called it. But it did a great job early on of just kind of establishing that sense of the 80s, really. You know, House of the Devil did a great job of that as well. It just kind of started off really slow, and you sort of got a peek into what this person's life was like, and it just kind of, just very nostalgic, you know what I mean? Like lots of stuff from that era. He actually had phone with a cord on it in this film, and I thought, where did he find that, you know? But anyway, we see the character that Kenny plays in the film, and the very first thing that you see him doing is taking a baseball bat and smashing a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns, or smashing pumpkins, if you will. Anybody who knows Kenny, of course, that's his favorite band, and I think Billy Corgan even allowed him to use one of his songs here in this film. So I thought that was funny. There's actually a couple places in the movie where characters are actually smashing pumpkins. So, you know, it's a good yuck for me. I'm not sure everybody caught that, but like I said, you know, Kenny. So that was really cute, and it just, you know, slow kickoff, slow burn, kicking off what her life was like at college. You know, somewhat bleak and austere, but at the same time, you know, you got that feeling that it was just a really big college. And I actually think some of that, I'm just guessing here, I'm thinking the college room might have even been in Myers' house. Anyway, I enjoyed the slow burn, you know, and I was kind of expecting, I went in knowing, because as you see in the trailer, there is a slasher film within this film, and some of the folks are watching that film in the gym theater. So that's a first for me, going to a really cool building, a location like that, where, you know, you're sitting in the building and you're watching a film that's shot in that same location. So it's like a little weird. Oh, there's where we just got popcorn. Okay, there's the upstairs bathroom. We just walked by that. So, you know, in that sense, it was really kind of a meta and surreal. So that was kind of a cool experience, you know. A great idea. I'm so glad the gym let him do that, because A, it made the gym look amazing, which it always does. But, you know, it's easy to forget about places like that. I only live 30 minutes away, and I haven't been to a movie there in probably 20 years up until last night. But I'm going to fix that, I promise you that. I'm going to start going over there, even if it's just to see something I can see right next door, you know, right beside this office. So I was glad for the exposure that it got the gym, and I think it's really cool that they let him shoot there, and it looked awesome. So anyway, builds up, and early on, you know, it doesn't really mince words with who the bad guy is, or who the antagonist is, and we kind of introduced to him right off the bat. But it's bigger than what you initially think, and it takes a while to kind of get there. I'll say that there's an evil cult involved and some ceremonial violence and some honey spiders. Okay, and we'll kind of leave it at that. And then, you know, when you think, holy crap, can it really end like this? And I'll be honest with you, like, even though I like the spin up, I was like, this don't make any sense to me just yet. You know, like I'm waiting for that revelation. You know, like I'm kind of in that place where I haven't decided, you know, what's happening, what I'm seeing. I'm not exactly sure that it's tidying up the story for me. Now, I'll just right up front, I'll just say that, you know, I am not that type of filmmaker. I am definitely more of the conventional filmmaker, as are most of my peers. And in that, you know, there's a start, there's a first plot point, which is your first twist, there's a middle, there's a second plot point, which is your other big revelation, and then there's a finale. You know, it's just a neat little 3-act structure and a little story sandwich, if you will. And I'm really accustomed to that. Anything that I write, I try to have that, because I feel like it just kind of, really all you need are those pieces, and then you just decide what goes in the middle. And this film, I mean, you know, it was 3-act structure, but it didn't really hand you a lot of those pieces. You kind of had to decide for yourself, which, you know, it made me think. And ultimately, how many films can you walk away from saying they made you think? Now, there's a lot of people that are probably going to draw an obvious comparison to Rob Zombie's Lords of Salem because of the ending. And also the music kind of harkens to that too. The music, first off, I'll say, was awesome. The score was really fantastic, and it was really very, very upfront. A lot of piano, really very upfront, and then when it got to the synth drones, it really, really harkened back to that mid to late 80s era. If you can imagine the music in Day of the Dead, those droning keyboards, which I think would ring, you know, that would resonate with a lot of folks that saw horror films in that era. But it really, anyway, just took me back. So I digress. Anyway, so some stuff happens with this cult, and I'm really sitting there scratching my noggin, and I'm thinking, okay, what does that mean exactly? You know, where is this going? And then there's this kind of, I don't know how I can put this. It's sort of a post revelation or post climax type event happens, which I interpreted to be kind of in the spirit world. Now, something happens there that, you know, I know this is a lot of nonsense if you haven't seen the film, but for me, it was like, okay, that could be one of two things, and you could decide that this is what that scene means, that takes place in this spirit world, or, you know, it means this other thing. And then just as I've decided what it means, at the very, very end, cut back to the main character for the last time you're going to see her in the film. She opens her eyes. So I was like, oh snap, because I had already kind of decided what it meant, but it couldn't mean that, or maybe it could. Anyway, I digress once again here. I had an awesome time. This was probably the best premiere screening event for an independent film that I've ever been to, and that's saying a lot because I've been to a bunch of them. I try to support all my indie filmmaker friends, and you know, I drive all over to go to some of these, and I wish more filmmakers and everybody else would do that as well. Don't just be passionate about your project. When a peer or a friend succeeds in making something awesome like HoneySpider, that's really a success for you as a filmmaker. So you in this particular community. So you should definitely make it your priority to get out and support other people's work. And then hopefully when the shoe's on the other foot and you're releasing your film, they'll get out and support you, and you know, it'll just be great. It'll just propagate more cool original cinema. Here in the South, you know, you can never have enough horror movies set in the fall. Slasher movie set in the fall. I'll talk a little bit about the film within a film. So it was a lot of fun in that way. It was just sort of poke fun at the cheesiness of, you know, things like Driller Killer and these. And it was number 3. I remember that was another thing. It was like the second sequel to this particular franchise. And the folks in the gym theater within the movie are watching this movie within the movie, if you will. And it was a lot of fun. I will say that it's funny because my wife got upset because there was some nudity. she, not being as attached to those films of that era as myself, didn't really get why that had to be, you know, girls, apparently heterosexual girls, kissing and walking around naked, answering the door naked for the pizza man, things like that. Just some of these scenarios and these Linnea Quigley, Brinke Stevens type movies from that era were just so bleeding obvious, so completely an in-joke, but I completely got that. And it was very funny, you know. I mean, I was laughing at that. So that film within a film, that's just a gimmick that I always love, and it always works for me. And once again here, I loved it. So I was just actually reading when I was doing a little bit of research. Like I said, I went out and read a little bit about Lords of Salem, because this film I think was pretty influenced by that. And apparently there was a film within a film in Lords of Salem which has not been aired yet, and I hope to see that. It was actually cut completely out of the movie. So glad that this one didn't get cut out of HoneySpider. But again, I really dug it. The event was awesome. Just a really appreciative crowd. We sat there for about 30 minutes, and the playlist was just awesome, kind of leading up to it. So, you know, by the time we actually got to see the movie, Kenny came out and said a few words, but I was chomping at the bit to see a spooky movie from the 80s. And the retro aspect of it just totally worked. I completely loved it. Very competent cinematography. If I wanted to nitpick, I could say a couple scenes were maybe overexposed, but, you know, that's just part and parcel of that look of that era. So for me, you know, I just dug it, man. I just completely dug it. And once again, the same duo, John Hasty and Kenny Caperton, created Judith, which I totally dug. I think back in 2010. Really loved that, and that's about the first time I met Kenny. So to see them take that a step further and do a feature, kind of in that same vein, that same level, or even a little better, really, as far as the technical. I was just really impressed, and I know I keep saying this, but you know. Go John, go Kenny, great job. I'll come see whatever else you guys make. It was awesome. Thanks very much for a fun evening at the spooky movies at the Gym Theater